Audiences and critics can't believe what they're seeing.
Listen to me. The world's coming after you. Stay out of my way.
Tom Cruise has outdone himself with a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes!
Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is filled with holy shit moments.
What is happening?
This is why we go to the movies.
Oh, I like her.
It's pulse-pounding. It will rock your world with jaw-dropping action.
Is this where we run?
Go, 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 go!
Probably.
It's one of the best action movies ever made.
What more can I say?
See it in the biggest, most seat-shaking theater you can find. It will take your breath away.
Da 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 da!
You sound insane. You realize that?
Yeah!
The whole world gone crazy!
Are you serious? Ladies and germs!
It's showtime.
Your mission this week, Man Fam, should you choose to accept it, listen to Richard and I attempt to discuss all of Mission Impossible 7 and all that Dead Reckoning Part 1 had to offer. Because it's a lot. I'm mad about movies. Welcome in. I'm Kent, joined by, as I said, co-host Richard this week. What's up, Richard?
What's going on? How are you?
Doing well, man. Another big screen movie experience on the weekend in the summer. Cars flying around, people flying around.
Mm-hmm.
Cruise still trying to win everybody over. And he's won me over a long time ago. I don't know why he's still trying to do that. But yeah, you know, it feels normal, which is great.
It does. It does. I'm doing this podcast sprinting, by the way. I'm going to try to get 4 or 5 miles in. Really extending the elbows and the hands. That's how you really pump. So
you have a long way to go, my friend, to get to cruise level. But I have some tips for you after the show on some lifestyle changes you could make that Tom Cruise has chosen to do that could help.
Was that has that anything to do with the flyer you put on my car?
It does.
Okay.
We'll talk about it after the show. So, man, what a complicated production this was. What an insane story Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning Part 1 is. And I think we should start kind of where we left off when this first got delayed, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And quote unquote, the outburst. What were your thoughts at that moment?
Not surprised. You know, this is someone who's, you know, I think the first adjective you would say about Mr. Cruise as an actor, as a producer, and as a human being would be intense. And so not surprised on the outburst during the making of this. Seemed on brand. It seems like something you sign up for. He's someone that holds people to a really high standard, but I think everyone really is up for it because he holds himself to the highest standard in his, you know, what everyone may think about his, you know, personal belief system and all of that. I think a very admirable coworker and producer that people like working for because, you know, as we've talked about on the show before, his batting average is pretty high for 40 years, which is absurd, as we always say. You know, it's funny. I think there's like a cost. I don't think it's about, it's not about Cruise, but Klosterman has a thing like when you talk about rock music or any kind of music and you're talking, let's say you're talking about 60s rock. And you're saying, okay, well, there's the Beatles and there's the Rolling Stones and there's the Who and into the 70s with Zeppelin and, you know, a million bands. And, you know, as time goes on, those bands shrink and there ends up kind of being one from that era. And even for the, you know, it might be in 500 years when you think about music in the 20th century, you will just only think of the Beatles for the entire 100 years, you know? And when you start putting together 40-year runs of movies, you know, it might be like when people were talking about what was this art form called cinema in 2650, they might go, well, there was 2 movies. There was Star Wars and there was Tom Cruise. And that was pretty much the only kind of movies there were because everything else just kind of falls away to history. That's how like huge his canon is. It seems absurd now, but it's no one else has like a 20-year run and now he has a 40-year run. So there's a certain intensity that comes with that and maintaining that and wanting to maintain that because God knows he's got enough money. And so, yeah, he's probably going to yell at the crew for not wearing their mask and stuff. Like that's par for course. So, you know, didn't faze me, but was excited for this one. Macquarie seems to be, in many ways, they seem to be each other's muse a bit. It's funny because that partnership really started with the Jack Reacher films, which were fine. The first one's fine and the second one's pretty bad. But it's that I did not see that this would be the person that Cruise reinvented himself completely with more, a different take on a Mission Impossible as that kind of rebooted within the existing narrative. And then obviously Top Gun 2, which Macquarie wrote. So it's a fascinating career. And this is, very much par for course in that it's a very entertaining, fun movie that everyone seems to enjoy. It didn't completely crush at the box office because of some demographic stuff and things like this. This franchise skews a little older for whatever reason, but everyone that sees these is into these, it seems like. So it's kind of my opening salvo. What about you, Kent?
Yeah. The Mummy, honestly, in what year was that? 2017. That's really the only real miss that Cruise has had. I mean, Jack Reacher was a miss critically, but I don't think, they were a huge loss or anything like that. It was just kind of
I think they did
a middling kind of franchise that never really latched on, kind of latched on. It latched on enough for one sequel, but not two kind of way. So,
well, I think too that I don't know. I need to look at the
maybe they do another one after Cruise has
That's what I'm thinking.
Reinvented himself as an action star. Maybe people will like Jack Reacher. Like convince themselves again that Jack Reacher could be a thing.
Rosamund Pike, great too.
Sure.
But those are like the lower rent in terms of budget. Mission Impossibles, like those cost 60, they made 200. It's a great return, but it's like they don't need to make those anymore because then Macquarie got brought into Mission Impossible. So it's like, well, why don't we do something for 200 and make 800?
Give you money.
Yeah,
now. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, it's an interesting question because this obviously seems like the first of the finale, right? They're ending this thing in some way, or at least Cruise is ending this. I don't know if Macquarie stays around and they reboot this. I mean, it's too valuable of an IP not to reboot. It's too easy to reboot. Just get new agents, right? It's not that hard. Right. And so I think, that could be pretty interesting. But yeah, Macquarie and him are really interesting because he has just used Macquarie. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. And you're going to film it. It's pretty much what it comes down to. These motorcycle stunts, he goes off on his own and trains for like years or, a year. He said he did 13,000 bike jumps and 500 skydives for this movie.
Who else does that?
I know. It's pretty insane. I wouldn't do 500 skydives and 500 lifetimes. So he's got me beat.
He is, it's funny, I think people have really come around on his legendary, as he keeps upping the ante in with these stunts, kind of becomes the side narrative of these movies. And it's great. I think it's awesome. And we've talked about it before. Like he wants us to like him so bad, he will, maybe kill himself one day, but
he'd be fine with that.
Yeah. I think that he'd be going out in a blaze of glory for sure. As he's gotten older, I think he's cared less about acting more than just being a movie star. He's more just being a movie star now. But he's very good in a lot of movies. Probably should have won an Oscar for Magnolia. He's great in Jerry Maguire.
Collateral.
A lot of stuff. Collateral, he's unbelievable in. Like he can be a very good actor. I don't think he's particularly
Eyes Wide Shut. He probably deserved an Oscar for that.
Yeah. He's not the rangiest actor, but he's a very good actor. Yeah. But he doesn't wear that hat as much anymore. But he is. It's not like the thing I don't think he gets enough credit for is he's not just a executive produced by Tom Cruise because I'm the biggest star in it and I put my name on that and I can make more money. He's a great producer. I mean, he really is an active, almost co-director, and co-screenwriter of these movies. He really oversees the entire mission, so to speak. And Macquarie, is a perfectly capable director, and they put these scripts together. But I think it all really comes from a really, Cruise doesn't get enough credit as I think one of the better producers going right now. I think that's his best skill.
Yeah. Yeah. I see this movie open as it says a Tom Cruise production. You're like, wow, it's a real thing.
No, it really is. It's not just like him just saying like, oh no, I want the residuals forever. No, he produces these.
Yeah.
Like he could be Kevin Feige.
Right.
Like in a weird, like he has that skill set. Like he knows how to,
he knows the formula for big blockbuster.
Sure.
You got to hit these action points at this time. I mean, he seems to know exactly what audiences want from him and how to deliver that, and how to tell
Absolutely.
a director to deliver that. I mean, it goes back pretty far. I mean,
Yeah,
what was that?
he's
Edge
been
of
doing it a long
Tomorrow was
time.
2014. I mean, pretty much ever since then, he seemed to have a pretty clear vision. Of
Yeah, there was a
what he
couple
wanted.
lost years in there where the things weren't
the
hitting like they
Valkyries
expected.
and,
Yeah, and he jumped on the sofa and everyone was, a little weirded out by him for a while with the Katie Holmes situation and all of that valid. And then, you make a couple, if you do good movies, people tend to forget that for the most part, unless you're, doing really, really heinous things.
Yeah, he's pretty goofy, but
Sure.
we had this conversation a little bit last week in the VIP in which we talked about Bullet, the Steve McQueen classic. So
Yeah.
check that conversation out at madaboutmoviespodcast.com/VIP if you would like more from us about how there really hasn't been a movie star like Steve McQueen that just has the reputation of total badass and never lost that until the end.
Yeah.
And was that in every single movie? I mean, even The Rock is kind of losing that at this point, right?
Well, The
Had
Rock
that-
started by doing like the Tooth Fairy. So it's
Right.
like, did he ever have it? Even though he's a, giant, scary man.
It's just an extreme. I mean, we think about macho movie star and how there's, they're a dime a dozen or whatever, but they're really not. I mean, it's a pretty tough thing to do. Would Cruise have that if not for the couch incident?
No, I
Does
think
the dancing in the underwear and all that ruin it for him early on? Or could he,
well, that's 20 years into his career.
once Mission
in a lot of
Impossible started, could he have been that had, a few more things not gone right? Just from a film perspective.
Yeah, maybe. I think he had something to overcome early on. I mean, he's look, a lot of actors and leading men are short. There was just something kind of always obvious about his height that kept him from being like, put it to you this way, when he was young, he was a guy that a lot of women were drawn to as a movie star, but men were maybe, they liked Top Gun, they liked Risky Business, but it was like, it was more that era of like Arnold. By the way, Arnold's probably like an inch taller than Tom Cruise, but he didn't present himself that way. He's like that machismo kind of thing. And then around Mission Impossible, you're right, he kind of like earned, I mean, God knows how many freaking jumps out of a
Minority Report. I mean,
Yeah,
he
but
did a couple.
the
right
stunts built it. Like the stunts built that aura, but like he was always over, he has sort of a movie version of like Napoleon Complex or like, and it's not like I'm not saying he's like cartoonishly short, but there was something about him where he's always chip on his shoulder and his both like, obviously he's trying so hard in what he does. He never had that effortlessly cool thing that, Steve McQueen had.
Right.
And when everything's cynical in the 90s and early 2000s, when, everything has to be a little more cynical to be cool, that's the time when we turned on him because he was so earnest, right? I mean, he's like the U2 of movie stars. He's just like, there is no cynicism to what he's doing. It's completely earnest. But the thing about that is if you do it for 30 years and you jump out of that plane for the 5,000th time and you do it, people come around, especially then it flipped the other way. Everything was CGI. Everything was computer done, and everything had this layer of maybe very beautiful, but a little bit fake. And there was something cool about like, I know when I go see Tom Cruise, he's jumping that motorcycle off that cliff. Like he's doing that. And he kind of came back around with this like second level of sort of, to use your term, badassery, but he had to kind of always work for it. It never came naturally to him.
Well,
my
I
opinion.
will say that the media campaign, the promotional campaign to make people aware that they know that this is Tom Cruise doing this is aggressive. So that seems to be just their entire
Gotten
strategy
more and more so for sure.
with these movies is, okay, how do we promote this? Just show Tom Cruise jumping a thing. And
Ever since the Dubai building, right? That was kind of the turning point because that was something where I think we all
was
knew he did his
Protocol,
own
right?
stunts. Yeah, I believe so.
Something like that.
I love all those
They all
movies.
mix
I
together.
never remember which title is what, but they're all great. But yeah, I think we all knew he did his own stunts. What does that really mean? And you think, okay, well, he's on this building, but sure. And then that's when we all kind of learned through like the virality of like, no, he's like actually on this building in Dubai, and there's the Matt Damon story and blah, blah, blah. That was when all of a sudden that became like, interesting to everyone, of course, to me included. And then as marketers do, like I said, they kind of turn this into a side narrative of these movies. Like, hey, this movie's going to be cool. Here's the plot. there's going to be some cool stuff. And also, like you said, Kent, 3 months before it comes out, we're going to show you this great Instagram video of him doing the stunt. And that's going to be like this. You got to go see this on the big screen kind of side reason. It's interesting.
Yeah, it does seem like the actual plot of these movies are a means to an end, which is not really a bad thing with these. At least they know what they are in that self-aware way, which leads me, I guess, to a second part of this precursor conversation before we dive into the big review is, why didn't this one do well opening weekend? We've had this conversation too many times this summer. $54 million behind Mission Impossible Fallout's opening weekend of $61 million. But the budget on this one, Richard, and granted, this is, during delays and all that, $290 million.
Yep.
And Fallout cost $180.
I wonder how much of that, I don't think any. I don't know how they announce these. I wonder if any, since this is part 1 of 2, how much of that is like, if any of that 290 is usable for part 2, right? If they like certain sets they built, or I don't know, locations.
I think they're shut down on part 2 right now because of the strike.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. So, this did fine at 80. It's one of those that, like, if we didn't have 2 massive other blockbusters coming next week, would certainly have legs more than a lot of things, right? It even showed that early on. Like, it had a pretty, it kept going at that rate for the 5-day weekend. It made 80, so this would be something if it was like last summer, certainly isn't the cultural hit of Top Gun because people have been waiting for that for 40 years, but you could see this having a nice little like 4-week run of like, it makes 59 the first weekend, it makes 49 the next weekend. And all of a sudden you kind of get there without that big burst. But I don't know, there's a lot of theater real estate taken up in the next week with Barbie and Oppenheimer. So I don't know what the legs could be.
This is the one. This was the weekend that I felt like if it's going to crush, it's going to crush this weekend. It's going to make $100 million and then middle the rest of the way just because of competition, not because of it being bad. And it'll be another classic, Edge of Tomorrow situation where we're like, this is actually good. Tom Cruise is doing fun things. Why aren't people going to see this? And I didn't want that to be the case, but yeah.
Again, I'm a Tom Cruise fan. I do want to say though that there's a lot of things that he is associated with, and people he is associated with personally, that I think turn people off, and I understand that. And so
I have heard some of that. Talk radio, things like that throughout the week was, I can't ever see a Cruise movie because of just who he is as a person.
Part of that is like David Miscavige, and a lot of what that group does is allegedly, pretty abhorrent in a lot of the reports and documentaries and things you see. So I don't know of how that affects this, but it's certainly, this has a great audience score. Everyone that seems to see it likes it. These always do fine. But yeah, again, we talked about with Indiana Jones, like other than Avatar, like nothing should cost $300 million. Now, a lot of that might be unavoidable because of the COVID ghost protocols and the delays and all of that stuff. So, maybe this would be $190 million again, without all that. I don't know, but it's like they said $400 million overall with the marketing. I think they'll get that back.
I think this makes $600 million, something, but $700 million.
Yeah, but Paramount needed it to make, to really be excited about it, probably double, probably make $800 million to be like, okay, cool. This is a tentpole. This pays for itself, pays all of our salaries, and it pays for a risk on another movie that that's what you need these to do. You need these tentpoles to like protect you, to help you search for new franchises, because that's what pays for it in case those don't pan out. But
did you hear
that's not going to do it?
Maybe Batman Shane can confirm this, our Paramount insider or whatever, but that the budget for this, Skydance in the original agreement had agreed, we'll pay, we'll split the cost of this, but we're not, if it goes over budget, we're not covering that. And then the COVID hit. So Paramount had to fork every overage bill for this movie.
Ouch.
So they really need it to hit. But they got, they had Maverick last year. I think they're doing pretty good in things. Has anybody asked Tom Cruise just straight up in an interview, I love that motorcycle stunt, but where's Shelley Miscavige?
Yeah, I know.
I can't believe no one has done that. Just said,
Yeah,
you know
they
what?
keep
If this
you're
ruins
so
my
glib.
career, but like this will
You're
be worth
so
it.
glib, Kent. No, yeah, that they do run the risk of, and I notice it a bit with this movie. The kind of overly relying on the stunt stuff to market this, his craziest stunt yet, and then that in turn makes it about him, right? As like a major reason. Like he now all of a sudden Cruise is kind of your guy promoting this, and that's always risky because he's an alien. You know, he doesn't. You know, I wish you could have Ethan Hunt out promoting this, but like when it's Tom Cruise, unless he's literally jumping out of a plane with James Corden, every other interaction is awkward and very scripted and very protected, and all the things that come with that. So it's bizarre. I really did think. I mean, I'm not bummed about it because Brian got this in movie draft, right?
I believe so.
And he and I are battling. So
no, it wasn't me.
And I've got Barbieheimer coming. I got the handcuffs of Barbieheimer next week. So I'm not bummed that this didn't totally crush
I'm a little
worried
that Barbie and Oppenheimer reviews haven't come out yet, though.
They're both whatever they called, siloed till tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow?
They keep like one or two leak, and then they delete them from all the sites. So like it's the.
I've seen some buzz on Oppenheimer. That's been good. I've seen very little buzz on Barbie. I thought they would have tried to get that going early if it was good, but
same. Yeah, there was a couple things last week. I could hit Rotten. I saw some screenshots. It was like 100% with 5 reviews, and then those all got wiped.
Got it.
So, but that doesn't mean it's 100%. I'm just saying whatever whoever those 5 were. But yeah, I think tomorrow the embargo. There you go. Embargo pulls
lifts
up
on Tuesday.
Yep.
Sweet.
It'll be interesting. Yeah. I mean, he is a 60-year-old movie star. It's not like he's resonating with a large. He looks great, and he can still do all the stuff, and he's not human. So what even is age?
I think there's an element of sequelitis to this too, where people just assume. Sure. I haven't seen the last 2, so I'm not even going to try with this one. It's it's almost 3 hours.
There's another one after that.
I'll catch it. I'll catch it later.
Yep. It'll be on Paramount Plus.
I think that's a little unfair to these because I think these are super fun, easy to jump right into.
They are.
Everything is kind of just explained in exposition, really obviously at the front, and you just kind of go on a ride. And there are some through lines, but you know, it's not. This isn't the MCU. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It's they kind of operate like serial spy novels,
like the TV show.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they you're right. It's like a TV show from a bike. Now everything's so serialized, but used to be, you know, you could pop in on an X-Files every week and it didn't matter if you'd seen the rest of the season. Now that's kind of gone.
It's kind of just rebooting the Mission Impossible show. You know, they just kind of kept that format of these do have to be kind of self-contained as their own stories within a larger story.
Yeah.
And they've done a great job with this.
What's funny is
didn't go back and watch all the Mission Impossibles before this one, which I was scared. It's like, man, am I going to have to watch the first one because this is so many callbacks and this is the end. But I was very, very relieved that there were some callbacks, but it wasn't like, oh, if you didn't see that one, you're not going to enjoy this.
No. So all you Rogue Nation stands out there, don't worry. You'll get your payoff. That's why Brian's not on tonight. We should say he had to watch them all 7 times and he didn't get it done.
Did not get it done in time. Well, I want your general thoughts on this, Richard, because my general thoughts were, wow, I had a hell of a time with that. That was fun. It flew by. No pun intended. But I don't know if I liked it more than the last one. But I don't know. You know, it's tough. At first, I was like, I definitely didn't like it more than the last one, more than Fallout when I left. But then like a day or 2 went by and I was like, did I like it more? I don't know. It's maybe recency bias or recency frustration or whatever it is. But it's very tough to keep topping yourself with these.
It is. Absolutely. And especially when, I know that's not this series, but
strapped himself to a plane in the last one, you know.
Yeah, and last year he's flying Mach 10 and, you know, all this stuff runs together, you know, even non-Mission Impossible movies.
His character's name should just be Tom Cruise in every movie. And it does. He is himself in every universe.
I will say, compared to the last one, I love Fallout so much. I think it's such a good action movie, among the best of all those. Ghost Protocol is really good.
Ghost
Rogue Nation's
Protocol, Mission
great.
Impossible 3 with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Awesome.
It's actually great too.
It's great.
So, like,
He's such a good villain.
One
It's
that
so-
never really gets talked about. MI2 gets all the buzz because of the Sweet Limp Bizkit soundtrack.
yeah.
Metallica.
And all that John Woo, all those doves.
Hey, hey, hey.
Here I go now. But Fallout's maybe the best of all of them. So this not living up to that isn't necessarily a bad, like a demerit. I like this quite a bit. I mean, I'm totally in the bag for these. Like, I love anything sort of, it has to be really bad espionage adjacent stuff for me to not like it. Like I always say, like I'm always reading 3 books at once, normally a nonfiction book of some kind, normally some sort of literary fiction, and then always a crappy spy novel. And I just am in the bag for it. So
Yeah,
it's hard for me to grade.
You're the official
hard.
spy correspondent of,
Yeah.
of Mad About Movies.
Yeah.
Besides
so
Adrian, who's an actual spy.
Absolutely. We know what you're up to, Adrian. We know you travel too much, but yeah. So I kind of like Brian, maybe with some sci-fi, like this is hard for me to give a really objective grade. Cause if this is decent, I love it. So it's hard for me to tell if this is very good or just decent. I loved it. But, and, it's not like these are hardcore spycraft movies. They're sort of silly, big action movies where someone wears a mask, but I just like the propulsive nature of these stories. I like the kind of basic setups, who's good, who's bad. They do a great job of always introducing new characters that you're not really sure where they stand. Much like Fast and Furious, they always kind of end up on the side of Cruise in the next movie, but it's fun. I mean, this is right there. To me, this is perfect summer entertainment. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. So you liked it. You just don't know as much as if you liked it as much as Fallout.
Yeah. I think first reaction was stronger for Fallout, just leaving the theater,
Yeah.
the feeling
Fallout's
I had.
awesome, man.
But I might end up liking this one more just because of the individual elements, but I don't know. I mean, Ghost Protocol is great. These all kind of run together. And so main, not issue I have, but like what was kind of eye-rolly for me, and I want your thoughts on this, was basically the plot of The Entity.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's where we're going in the world, but maybe the execution of that idea was a bit cringe to me. What about you?
There's always, I agree. There's kind of always they always go way too big with like the level of, which is fine, but like the level of villainy on top of villainy on top of this secret organization and this secret society. And so they, when you're 7 movies in, they become much more and more absurd. And now we're like, okay, now it's AI. We'll just do AI. We can't.
Yeah. Out of nowhere too. It's like,
Yeah.
it's never really a concern. And now it's taken over. It
There's
has
a
taken over the world.
speech. There's a speech at the beginning where it's like every buzzword from like,
Oh
the
man,
news.
it became sentient. It
Yeah.
was,
It's like blockchain and
the
AI
pointer
and
scene
all
at
that.
the beginning was it was bad. I was like, oh no, this is not. Yeah, the visualization of it, and not to get spoiler, but there's a sequence kind of in the middle, late first act where they go to a club in Paris, and it ends up being the AI controls this party. The AI wants us here. And then like the whole party visualizer turns into the AI. It was just it felt very Marvel-y in a bad way.
Did. Yeah. Yeah, it did. And I don't
Which you
think
expect a lot of realism with these movies.
Sure.
To say this is a movie of the guy's actually jumping the thing, and then we get, AI eyeball kind of popping up everywhere. It's kind of, I don't know.
Macquarie's a very kind of paint by numbers screenwriter, and he's very good at doing these blockbusters. I don't think he's necessarily the writer, as we saw with some of the expedition dialogue.
Hold on. Looks like there were 2 writers. The other one was Mark Cuban. So that explains.
There we go. Sick. But he's not necessarily the level I would think of a writer to do kind of ripped from the headlines action movies without a bunch of like, okay, here. Yep. Cool. I got it. Yep. Someone watched some YouTube. Got it. We'll see.
Yeah, there is.
But then once again, the great thing about these, they're like a higher brow version of Fast and Furious, where you go, okay, cool. There's the plot. Now I'm in. Like, let's just see him get. It's not. They do a good job. What you said earlier of really navigating those points of when the set pieces should be and all of that. And we're just going to get to each one. And as hard as my eyes were rolling a few times was equaled only by the amount my heart was thumping at other times. So that's fine.
Yeah, that airport sequence, kind of the first big action sequence. I guess not the first big one. The first big one we should talk about, Richard. The movie opens on a freaking submarine. Let's go. I was like, okay, this is a sub movie. I'm in. And then it lasts for 5 minutes.
It's like Sevastopol. Yeah.
We need more submarines. We've been saying it. More submarine content, more submarine movies.
I think they should remake Hunt for Red October and make Cruise the Connery Russian role.
Oh, dude.
That's be just as ridiculous and fun.
Now we're talking.
And give me Gosling as Jack Ryan Baldwin, and we're good.
Let's go. Every submarine movie, U-571 with Cruise.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that.
Yeah,
Widowmaker with Cruise.
Yeah,
take it. Not too spoilery, but there might be some sub in part 2 because it doesn't seem like the submarine stuff is completely finished yet.
They were just teasing us with that.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's where we end. Oh, that could be great.
Man.
So after this,
he's going to go down. Cruise is going to go down in that submarine that just exploded, isn't he? He's going to make it work.
Something I really like about these movies is the Mission Impossible mission, right? Where he sits down and gets the mission. Should you choose to accept it, this message will self-destruct. I love those scenes. They're so
best
easy.
one is where they trick him. I forget is it in Fallout or is it Rogue Nation? He goes into the record store and he goes into like the listening thing and starts playing, but then they've hacked it and then it like smokes him out and all that. That's such a cool scene.
They go after the MacGuffin here of this key, right? I need you to get the key and get it to us. That's it. And you never really know what the key does, why they need the key. It's the Sebastopol thing. Who got the key out from under the ice? We don't really know that. All we know and care about is we got to get the key. And I liked some of the plot devices they used there with the sleight of hand character of Grace, Haley Atwell. She was great. Such a fun addition to a movie like Mission Impossible, where you have somebody that can switch an item around, especially an item of importance like that.
Yep.
At any moment. And
kind of
the way they introduce that, there's a fake piece of the key as well. I kept waiting for more of that, honestly. I thought there was going to be a big moment of, oh no, this isn't the real key. This is the fake key, right? There were small ones, but I thought it was going to really come to a head at the end with like, oh no, this isn't the key at all. And she's got, that would have been great. They used the little lighter thing instead, the little tracker lighter thing to switch it out. So what do you think of her being, in addition to the cast, a really stacked cast, by the way,
so to speak?
Who, it's a very small like family, and put it in fast terms, where you've got Ving along for the ride every time. Now Simon Pegg seems to be a part of this every time around, and Rebecca Ferguson is back, Vanessa Kirby as well, and then you add Haley Atwell to kind of this main cast of characters. What'd you think of her?
I love her. Loved her in Captain America. Loved her. Think she's great. So totally was very excited she was in this, and she was a huge part of it. She was a co-lead for a lot of the movie. Like, I hadn't seen Esai Morales since like La Bamba, and then he's in like 5 things this year. He's in that new Paul Schrader movie. He's in these, like, he's having the Assayasance. Ren Assayasance. Anyway,
not to be confused with the Pinkberry Acai Assance, which was back
that
in
was big when that came back. Anyway, I just wanted to call that out because I think Ozark is what brought him back, but hadn't thought about him in a long time, and now he seems that's like a big kind of villainous part. You go, huh? That was a big day for him when he got that one. I bet
it feels a little bit of Iron Man 3 where it's like, okay, there's this villain character that Ethan apparently knows and has been his real villain this whole time. Y'all just didn't know. It felt like that. What, the Guy Pearce character from Iron Man 3?
Yeah,
of Tony's past, right? That's fine. Apparently there was, that flashback scene in the movie with him. Apparently they did one with Cruise, like a Dial of Destiny deepfake Cruise situation, maybe in this movie, and cut it out or didn't use it.
Interesting.
I was surprised.
Very interesting. Yeah, no, it's I'm very curious where this is going. I don't now is in some risk, I guess, of performing up to its potential.
What stunt does he
office.
have that's going to top this one, though? You know,
He's got to go to space, right?
He has to have some. Yeah, he's got to do that jump. Remember that guy jumped from space? He's going to have to do that.
That'd be cool. But until that hit, I don't think they really knew. But I am like, why do they need to wrap this up?
I guess because Cruise is going to be 70 by the time the next one is done, and we're on it basically. Maybe he doesn't want to.
What else does he have going on though? I can't imagine he's gonna. He's got this, and then maybe they'll do Top Gun 3, but think they should probably let that lie. And just
in terms of franchises, he's a part of that. He can just constantly
this
crank
is
them out.
all he really does. I mean, he did American Made a few years ago, which was a cool little movie. But I don't see him sitting on his hands. But I don't know what else he would do if not one of these every 5 years.
There might be a series out there that he's going to reboot that we just don't know about.
Yeah,
like The Mummy, like he was thinking of doing. That he's got in his back pocket. He's just like, wait till they hear I'm going to be doing this, and everyone's going to be in.
John Wick 5.
I'm saying, villain. Put him as the villain in Fast, and
that
would be freaking great. They do the stunts for real there. They drive the cars. They do.
He is doing Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat, allegedly.
That's been a rumor for literally since 2015, though. I don't know.
And then he's got another Doug Liman movie with he and Macquarie as the writers, by the way.
It's a little curious.
Tom Cruise Space X project.
I'm guessing Mission Impossible 8 crossed over, but it's interesting to me that they cast Pitt in the Kaczynski F1 movie and not Cruise. Like Kaczynski wouldn't want to just get Cruise back on for that.
I don't think an F1 car is enough action for Tom.
Really?
That it's like driving a Camry to him, man. He's like,
you think you can do a Days of Thunder reboot? I think so. This F1 movie comes out and it's big. I think people will be like, all right, Tom, your move.
Maybe. But I just don't think he needs to be flying down, plummeting. An F1 car is just like leave that to Pitt.
Yeah.
200 miles an hour, cute.
I thought the chemistry between Atwell and Cruise was like great too.
Yeah, and he's not an easy person to have chemistry too. Yeah,
he's not easy. Yeah. And why does Ethan Hunt keep getting these missions? It's like every person he goes on a mission with, interacts with a mission, ends up dead. It's like, dude, you're a liability.
Yeah.
I guess he's like the only one crazy enough to work for the IMF at this point, right? They operate under, obviously it's like a government organization that's a secret government organization. So he kind of has allegiances more to himself and like what he's trying to do than the government, which is always that great tension here, which I guess leads to the big question is it you control the AI, you control the world, and is Tom Cruise going to be able to shut it off, swim down to the submarine at Arctic temperatures, mind you, and shut it off before they can do that? Or does he not do it? And then that's how it ends. And then that's reboot, is the entity is the new villain, but we don't have Cruise because he died trying to save us all.
They can't kill Ethan. I think he'll kill him. It'll be a Dark Knight Rises ending, and then we'll see him.
Okay. Yeah, he's retired.
Yeah.
He's dead, but he's actually retired.
Exactly.
Or it might be a vision.
And he lives with like the last 4 romantic leads from all these movies, all in some weird kind of group home.
Ving Rhames is great in these random, like I think the dialogue they give Ving Rhames is always really impactful. The scene of them asking Grace, and I think they talk to Ethan earlier in the movie with the same kind of sequence of, you got to ask yourself the same question we had to ask ourselves. We all jumped in on this thing. I thought that was a great moment. And the way they brought back around with Grace at the end, I do accept was wonderful. So I think like this series, Macquarie, Cruise, they understand like, okay, there's 3 things you have to do in Mission Impossible, right? You have to have big stunts. You have to say your mission, should you choose to accept it, these really kind of essential moments, and it knocked them out of the park. You can't do those moments every movie and have them feel fresh. And it felt fresh again. at Mission Impossible 7. What'd you think of the big ending sequence, though, which takes place on a train? Really cool homage to Mission Impossible 1 there, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the cruise, train, tunnel, fight, whole kind of thing. Liked it. Loved it. What about you?
Loved it too. There's a lot of homage, actually. The first one is probably the most helpful movie to have seen.
Yeah.
Of all of them, other than maybe, knowing who some certain characters are and their relation. But that one has the most pieces to it. Did you see the meme?
Is the stunt in the first one with him rappelling down into the room still the most iconic Mission Impossible moment, despite him strapping himself to planes and all this crazy
I would
stuff?
say it's definitely top 3, maybe number 1. I don't know. I think the Dubai Tower is up there now. And then the plane strap. Yeah. Did you see the meme that went viral over the weekend that, speaking of Mission Impossible 1, that Cruise is now older than John Voight was in that movie?
Wow.
You see them next to each other. It's baffling.
Tom Cruise is like Tom Brady. It's just
for sure.
You're not a normal 40-something-year-old person. Everyone needs to know that this is not normal. This is not how a normal person this age should be. It's the exception, right?
Yeah,
we all try to go for that. We might kill ourselves.
Totally. And I think it's, a heck of a billboard for your belief system to have a 60-year-old guy out there doing that stuff. I think all different faiths could use that as an average. What's that guy's secret? Well, he follows this religion. I think that's a pretty good ad.
Yeah. Well, what was your favorite moment of the movie, Richard?
Opened on a submarine, got a big fist pump out of me. And I went to high five my wife, and then I realized I went alone. That actually happened.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yes, because she knows I love submarines, and I was like, oh, that's right, we have a kid, and so she had to stay home with him. But I would say, man, I'm thinking here. The party scenes are always great, by the way. The one in Venice, anytime he infiltrates an opera or a party or things like that, it always reminds me of MacGruber. And I'm always in.
KFBR 392.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I thought the train sequence, obviously it had this big action moment with him fighting on the roof of the train. But inside the train, I loved the tension of Grace having the mask.
Yeah.
And then having to do the deal. And I love that trope of Mission Impossible of you never know if somebody's going to be somebody that's masked. And I think the first reveal of Ethan at the beginning when he goes and rescues like the director or whatever was pretty awesome too. It's always a great twist.
Absolutely. And it's so funny that you're totally right. And speaking purely agnostically, it's such a cheesy, lazy
the
thing
way they have
for action movies, but they do it so much that it becomes
the
great.
Mask, this one, is that the first one that had that? Like,
no, there was another one where they had like a mobile backpack mask making unit, but like it's one of those things that if you told me in a vacuum, I'd say that is the laziest bit of screenwriting ever. That anyone can be anyone anytime, and it has this cheap twist of a thrill. And it's that stupid thing where if they only did it twice across the series, we would think, God, I wish they would stop doing that. But the fact that they do it twice a movie, I don't know why it becomes endearing. It's like its thing. I don't know why I love it every time, but intellectually, I hate it.
It's always the same way where his arm goes completely over his head, because that's the only way they can do the wipe. It's not just like he pulls off the face. He does this like weird, like he's pulling off
the
a
elbows in front of his nose.
Yeah.
It's like getting Jude out of his jammies.
Yeah. It's so funny. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed obviously the action's great, but I thought there was some great writing tension built in to the script as well. Simon Pegg's role is just getting super eye rolly for me in this entire thing. I hated the bomb diffusing sequence. Maybe it was just the execution of like this bomb asking it questions and all that, but yeah, ended up meaning nothing. It was just a distraction from the real task at hand. And that's what Simon Pegg feels like in this series, a distraction from the real task at hand. Ving Rhames can do all the hacking and directing that Ethan needs, right? And he does most of it anyway. So
the annoying thing about Simon Pegg in these films is I think he's probably paid pretty well. And so it robs us of other Simon Pegg movies.
That's true. Because
I love Simon Pegg. And I loved him in the first time he's doing one of these. You're like, oh, this is great.
Simon Pegg's great, but what if that was Steve Zahn?
Yeah.
Like somebody, give somebody else that has a little humorous tone
Yeah.
to their performance. And I mean,
Benji is a little one note, like
Yes.
just nervous and part of that's the writing again. But it stinks because I think he's a great
Scotty
comic
in
actor.
Star Trek again. It's the same, exact same.
But I'd like
Same
to see
bit.
him in more original roles. But maybe those don't exist anymore because no one makes comedies. So he's like, you know what? I'll
Is
just do
Nick
one
Frost
of these every 5
still
years.
out there? I haven't seen him in a while. Maybe
I think he had some kind of show recently. Last couple of years, I saw a trailer for it. I was like, oh man, what a time.
Well, this one was pretty strong, man. It was too long though. I mean, everyone leaving the theater was like, that was the longest movie of my entire life. I didn't really feel it that much. I went to the bathroom one time, but like didn't feel it as a movie. Like this is not well paced. Maybe it's because that last train sequence is literally like 45 minutes. So
Yeah, I
Keeps
wish
your
there were two
attention.
versions of this because I'm going to watch this 30 more times. I always put these on like Saturday afternoon, just like put them on, do some chores around the house, come in, come out, watch 5 minutes here, watch 5 minutes there. And for that, they cannot be long enough. I would love a 4-hour cut of this because that just eats up an afternoon. I don't have to change to the next movie. That's also why I never know which one's which because I've seen. So yeah, I love the 2 hours and 40 minutes for that.
when this goes
But
on
yeah, I wish-
TNT, it's going to be like 5 hours.
Yeah. But I wish there
Commercials.
was a 2-hour, 5-minute cut for theaters because people just aren't built for that.
Let's get to a grade here
Okay.
before we hit weekly recommends. What are you going to grade Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1?
First watch through, it's a little long. It's really fun, really cheesy. Felt a little Fast and Furious-y in parts and less Mission Impossible, but the Mission Impossible parts were great. I'm just going through my whole math right now. And there's a submarine and there's Russians, but there's also AI. So, okay, I'm going to come
And
out at
Haley
an A-.
Atwell.
And Haley Atwell. Oh, that just bumped it up. It was A-. I'm going to go solid A then. What about you?
Yeah,
A for Atwell.
First impression is A minus, but I think I could bump it up to an A by the end of the year. Like I said, it's growing on me more and more. I was probably even lower than an A minus when I left the theater, but it's growing on me up to an A minus by the time we've done the show. So yeah, man, like I said, I don't know how he's going to top himself for this last one. He's got something up the sleeve, right? He knew this was going to be 2 parts. So he's like, okay, let's do this tease stunt in the first one and then really hammer it home. Or do we do the big stunt in the first one to hook everybody in and then they'll already go see the second one because of that? I don't know. It's going to be crazy if they get it done, you know? Probably going to have to push that one back again. But don't spend $300 million this time. Or yell at people. Do you want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere, and even earn money all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup's like, you can start creating today. Then, you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. And video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we started using Spotify for Podcasters on Mad About Movies, it's made it super easy to get our show posted and out to all of the MAM fam. We highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's hit a weekly recommend.
Weekly recommends.
What you got this week, Richard?
I got a book, came out, I believe, last year. One of my favorite writers. We've talked about him before on the show. But I don't think I recommended this book when it came out. So I'll hit it up now because I audibled it a couple weeks ago. And that's Happy Go Lucky by David Sedaris.
Nice.
There's a great story in it. We love David Sedaris, and you and I also love Amy Sedaris. And Kent, there's a great story about Amy in it. She always kind of pops up as a character in his books, but there's like a full-on kind of story about their relationship. And God, she's funny, and he's funny, and there's some laugh out loud things in it. There's also a commencement address that he wrote and gives, and it's just the most Sedaris-y thing ever. Like always recommends for college students to do. Most of it's around scented candles. It's great. So highly recommend all of his stuff, but Happy Go Lucky is great. And a lot of stuff around the death of his father and their complicated relationship, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, it's great.
Probably the greatest, family. Right?
Yeah.
Amy and David, right? Who
they have a
be
beach
a better
house?
pair of of people you'd want to like have a dinner with, right? Like two totally interesting, totally opposite personalities.
Yeah.
But
both are insane, but funny and fun,
both
crazy.
but both love each other to the core. It's like very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're awesome. I mean, anything they pop up in,
They,
both of them, I tune in for sure.
the two of them bought the rest of the family a beach house in Carolina, or maybe he bought, I don't know, but it's called the C-section. And that's all you need to know about that family. SEA C-section.
I know he's probably pretty rich, but she's got that Mandalorian money now. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be paying.
She bought the apartment above her. That's part of the story. She bought the apartment above hers in New York City, but did not connect them. So she has to like get out, go down the hallway, go up the common stairs, and come back down the hallway to go to her second floor.
We've talked about Martin Short being the greatest late night guest of all
she's
time
up
in
there.
terms of, if you want to see somebody that killed every time, just go watch Amy Sedaris on David Letterman. I mean, it's just 5 minutes of jokes. She's incredible. I mean, that's like literally how it's done is how she was doing it. She was
And the best part is, and this is a credit to Dave too, very rarely did she have anything to promote. She would just kind of show up.
Just go on there and be
Sedaris.
funny and talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
She rarely had something to promote. All right. Yeah. David Sedaris, big endorsement. And also pods featuring him because he's got a great voice.
Yeah. He does have a great
Listen
voice.
to the pods or the audiobook if you get a chance to do that. Richard, I'm going to recommend a documentary that I watched. I love a good heist. Right? Heists are always good. This one's called The Jewel Thief. And it's about this guy named, I forgot the guy's name, but he was this kid who lived in, Blanchard was his name. He lived in Canada. And as a kid, he basically started shoplifting at an early age, right? And got super comfortable with it, started shoplifting more and more. He would like, okay, I'm going to steal stuff from a convenience store. And then he would steal something from a Radio Shack. And then he would rob the entire Radio Shack. And he just kept building and building until he figured out how to hack ATMs and how to break into them. And he stole millions from ATMs in Canada. And no one knew how or who it was for the longest time. And it was super interesting, but it all culminates in this robbery of this priceless star, like a brooch, like you wear in your hair.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
That has like diamonds and pearls. It was worn by the Queen of Austria, I believe, something like that. And so he's at the museum, stole that. So that was the most notorious crime. But like before that, this guy was basically a kid and was stealing $750,000 per ATM that he would break into. And it's an unbelievable story. True, crazy, and documentary is really good on it. So it's called The Jewel Thief. But really, it should be the ATM thief guy because that was his main source of business. But yeah, he goes into detail about how he did it, why he did it, and the links at which he went to pull this stuff off, which is truly crazy. So check it out, The Jewel Thief. It came out this year, so I think it's Netflix, something like that. All right, there we go. There's Weekly Recommends and Mission Impossible 7, Dead Reckoning, Part 1. We'll see you next year, hopefully, Tom. But until then, we'll see all of you in the VIP and at the cinema. Goodbye.
Hey baby, I hear the blues are calling, tossed salads and scrambled eggs. And maybe I seem a bit confused. Yeah, maybe, but I got you pegged. But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. Scrambled eggs all over my face.
They're making me yah-yah. The salads and scrambled